Welcome, everyone. We have a captain as our guest, Captain Kathy Rinaldi. Kathy was the youngest player to win a Wimbledon match. She had a career high-ranking number 7 in the world in professional tennis. And rather than retire with great pro tennis success, she decided to pursue her passion of coaching. As head of the USJ Women's Pro Division, one of Kathy's prestigious roles is captain of the U.S Fed Cup team, now known as the Billie Jean King Cup. Awesome to see you, Kathy. Thank you for joining us.
Awesome to be here with you and excited to see you at the Billie Jean King Cup.
Yes. You and I grew up on the women's professional tennis circuit together. As a kid, was it your dream to become a professional tennis player?
Actually, it was. And I always tell this story. One of our good friends, Peanut Harper, has Harper for Kids Foundation. And so she goes to all these schools with Coach Wooden's Pyramid of Success. And I always tell them about second grade. My second grade teacher challenged us to write down what we dreamed to be as we get older. And I wrote down, I dreamed to be a professional tennis player, and it came true. So in second grade, so grateful to my mom and dad who introduced me to the sport because they played and my older siblings played. And then, I would tag along at the court. So I found my passion early. So yes, I always dreamed to be a professional tennis player.
Wow. How many people, I know a lot of people from our circuit grew up with that dream. Mm-hmm. It was a little different for me. And so I was curious about that, but that's pretty amazing to write it down in school and present it and have an audience for that. So well done on that. Now, to become a pro athlete, no matter the ranking or sport, it takes a different mindset. What did you notice about yourself as a kid that you thought, wow, I'm pretty good at this? What did you notice?
Well, it's funny because I played all the sports. We basically grew up outside in Florida. I was born and raised in Florida. We grew up at the ballpark, and so I played all the sports, but tennis was really, I don't know. I just loved it from the start. I think it was because it was individual. Everything kind of relied on you. I think the most important thing that I loved, or the main thing that I loved, was the problem solving out there, the strategy, and the sound of the ball, the freedom out there on court. I still love it to this day, Andrea. I just love to go out and hit tennis balls, and then the competition, of course, was fun, and everything else that came with the sport. I loved everything that was around tennis, not just the competition, the traveling, but the friendships, like ours still to this day, and just meeting people from around the world and having friendships around the world.
Yeah, there's a lot of amazing things about that. It's interesting. You said the sound of the ball. It's like still today when I hit a ball, and I see Adriana nodding too. It's like once you played tennis as a kid, and there's just something so special about it. When you've hit the ball well, and it's really a great thing, which brings me to this question. Now, I get asked this a lot. I've been asked it since I turned pro at 14. I was 2 in the world at 16. So I've been asked this question my whole life.
Andrea was incredible, by the way, and still incredible today.
So what parents always come up to me, and coaches too, they say, well, what age is a good, what advice do you give to parents who say, well, what age should my child get real serious? I know there's not a set answer, but you're a captain and a coach. So what advice do you give to parents who ask that question?
Well, I think it's important, for athletic development that they play other sports as well. I think it is possible. And I kind of dictated when I transferred just to tennis. I remember playing softball and, driving home with my mom and saying, this softball's getting in the way of my tennis. I really just want to play tennis because that was my passion. So I think, kids will dictate that too, but now with the 10 and under tennis, it's so much easier for the kids to get started and have fun with, the shorter rackets and the green dot balls. So it's a little bit more, they can learn a better foundation and kind of get that, the grips and all those fun things, get started. But I think at a young age, really to continue to play some other sports. It doesn't always have to be organized sports. We played in our backyards and we kind of got games in the neighborhood going, and it doesn't have to always be organized. But I think for athletic development in general, that's good. But, I think it's important for parents to understand why you're getting your kids into sports. It's really about character. It's about learning how to be a great team player, just all those traits that are going to stay with them through their life. And let's not forget the fun, it's got to be fun. It's not about, very few make it to the top, right? I mean, that, Andrea. And so when you're playing a sport, it's really about the enjoyment and improving and seeing how far you can go with it. And then, that's kind of how I started, actually. I didn't, yes, I had the dream of being a professional tennis player, but I didn't really know. I was having fun and I was going through the process and kind of just making little improvements and, had some luck along the way and some great people around me. But, there's just so many other things that you get from sports too.
Yeah. And John McEnroe was one of those athletes that he played other sports. I played soccer as a kid. I played on a boys traveling team. And as soon as I started doing well in the pro ranks, I kind of got pulled from that. I wasn't allowed. All the adults around me were worried that I'd get injured. And that was devastating. Really great advice. Really good.
Yeah.
Now, one of the great many aspects about you, there's a lot, but you have a really balanced, you definitely do, but you have this balanced professional approach to tennis. And you had this when you were a kid on the circuit, you had it as a pro, you've continued as a coach and a captain. And to you, it from outwardly, it seems like a win isn't the greatest thing that life invented, and it's never the worst thing that can happen. I saw that you on tour when we were kids. You talked to people the same, whether you won or lost. You were genuinely happy and to be playing and to be on the circuit, and yet you had this inner competitive fire. You maintained a goodness while you were very competitive. And some players can't do that. They can't turn off their competitiveness, even if they're not performing. Like, even if you see that they're like in the locker room and they're in a certain way, or they're playing a board game, or they're at a restaurant, and you still see like they haven't turned it off. So what was your approach to winning and losing like inside? Because it's really a wise way to go about life, to know that you can have that balance.
Well, thank you for saying that. I get told all the time how competitive I am, and I'm sure you do too. But, it was a competitiveness. I mean, I hate to lose at anything, board games too. But, my parents just instilled that. I mean, I think just kept me very grounded on what was really important in life. And that was, being kind and just being a good person. They always stressed that was the most important thing to them. And I just really, I think, being the youngest of four, and I think that makes you competitive right there, right? Just trying to get my Sunday Italian meatballs from before they're all gone. But I think it's the people around you, just keeping you grounded. And I think if you have great people around you, it's a little bit easier. They would keep things in perspective for me. And if I were like that, I would hear about it from my parents. They wouldn't allow that. And not only that, but I mean, I think the tennis family were a pretty close family. And there's so many, I grew up in an era where there were so many great people. They were, I was young, obviously 14 as you, and people were just, wanting to help. And so I knew I was going to see everybody week in and week out too. So, I just, generally just really enjoyed everybody and just enjoyed what I was doing, and very grateful for it. Very, very grateful for it. It's not something I took for granted. I'm sure I had my moments. You could probably talk to a few of my coaches, Andrea.
I think we all have
I was not perfect. I mean, not perfect.
No. And certainly.
In fact, you'll see my coach next week, Andy Brendy. I'm sure he'll give you plenty of stories.
Well, but here's the story. And this was separate. We hadn't seen each other for decades. We hadn't visited. And so I saw your good naturedness. It was at a recent Wimbledon, and it was a practice day for players match. The tournament didn't start yet. And that's almost where players are the most tense, because they know the draw, they know what's happening. It's, their preparations better be in play. And so I was playing in the Wimbledon Legends, and Adrian and I were there in England. We had already run a children's cancer program. We had the wheelchair bound children and the blind children program to come. And Adriana, we also decided to fit in an orphanage program. So Adriana went out of country, out of London, to go run that program. And so I didn't have anyone to practice with those 2 days. So there I was at the practice courts. I had my practice court, but I didn't have anyone to play with. And you were there. And you said, "Hey, Andrea, you hit with me. You went out and hit some balls and made sure I get a practice in." And I wasn't a member of the Fed Cup team. I mean, this is, unless I think I won in 81 with the Fed Cup team. So it was quite some time,
Right.
many decades. And you treated me as if I was a member of your team. And I've seen that with you, with any player. It doesn't, even if they're not on your team, if they're not from US, you're good to them. And so I just, you didn't gain anything by that. And so I've always remembered that. And so
I think I gained a lot from that hit. What are you talking about? This is disappointing to hear.
So my thought was, where did you, I know you mentioned your parents who were very huge to you, but you also had an opportunity to get advice or to kind of, I don't know if it was friendship, but with Arthur Ashe. I mean, one of the hugest ambassadors of the game, and you were able to get some advice or some tips from him. So could you share a little bit about that? Because he was such an amazing person.
Yeah, I had the experience of working with Arthur for a little bit. My father took me down to Miami to work with Arthur a little bit. And every time I saw Arthur, he was just so kind. Always asked, "Hey, Kathy," he would find me and ask me how I was doing. "How are your parents doing?" And always took the time. And it's such an honor what I'm doing. Like I said, I don't take it for granted. I feel, I didn't win as many titles as Andrea did. And, she was extraordinary. And I feel like this is my way of giving back to the sport that's given me so much. And, I truly care about the girls and I shouldn't call them girls, the ladies, because they're in all ages. But, I really, and not just that, but women and the men. I mean, I've seen them all growing up, and just to see them doing great and seeing our sport so healthy with American players, it's an honor. And, I really hope that I can, that they can rely on me if they need something. I hope that I can be there. I really try to do my best and, to let them know how much I care and, and to see our sport doing so well. But it's really a way for me to kind of give back. And I'm very fortunate to be in the position I am and have been.
That's awesome. I had an interesting story with Bjorn Borg when you talk about the male players as well. It was center court. I think we were later in the tournament, like maybe quarter semis going on at the French Open, and they booked our warm up on center court at the same time. And normally you get that late in a tournament, you get your own court. And so I walked out, and there was Bjorn Borg with his coach, and I just didn't know what to do. I was just like, "Hi," hi. And so he looked and he goes, "Do you have this court too?" And I said, "Yeah," but I didn't say anything. And he goes, "Let's do this. Let's lose our hitting partners and we'll warm up each other." And I just looked at him and I was like, okay. I was so excited. I was like, never miss a ball, like get everything in the court, warm up.
Oh, and I'm sure you did.
Oh, and I was like,
she never missed a ball. She never missed a ball.
No, I know.
So I was like so interested in how he did. I was like, if I've warmed up Bjorn Borg, he better win this match. And he did. And he was so nice and came up to me afterwards and looked at me, because back then the locker rooms were right next to each other. So when the men came out and the women came out, it was right there. And he looked at me and he goes, "All because of your warm up," like after he won his match. And I was like, "Oh so my gosh."
That's awesome. Actually, I love Bjorn Borg. I mean, I just loved watching him play and just, loved the way he presented himself on court. So that's awesome. I got to play a mixed doubles match against Bjorn Borg, but I didn't get to warm up with him. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really special. Well, Adriana, she also is familiar with how we grew up, where we had like a heightened work ethic and dedication and discipline. And Adriana has a few questions for you too.
Sure.
Hi, Kathy. It is so nice to see you and meet you this way. I heard so many wonderful things from Andrea, and I can see why she would be telling me all that. You're incredible.
I don't know about that, but I think what work that she does and that you all do is absolutely incredible. It's very inspiring.
Thank you. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
I'll get to it. So besides being a former player and captain, you have been with the USTA player and coach development since 2008. You have seen a lot of players train and succeed. What characteristics have you noticed that champions on court have mentally and physically that any player can learn on their own without a coach, if possible?
Yeah, well, I think it's there are a few things that they have. One is heart and a will. They're willing to to put themselves through just about anything to get to that level. I would say the effort is incredible. The work ethic, the determination, those things really go a long way. I would say, obviously they're very athletic. Their players are much taller and athletic today. But I would say really heart, and this inner confidence, how to play, how to handle themselves under pressure, extremely well. So I would say those are some of the things. I know that's a lot.
Beautiful. No, that's beautiful. Wow. For the players out there who might not have the financial support, do you believe for a player to succeed, they absolutely need to have a coach?
Well, I think there are so many different avenues now. I mean, there's, some local tennis events. I mean, look at Ben Shelton. I mean, he never left the country until he went to the Australian Open. I mean, he didn't play. I mean, he had obviously a lot of talent, but he had never even traveled overseas. So I think if you have the will, there's a way. I think the USTA is definitely looking for ways to make things more cost effective. And I think locally you can find programs now that are doing that. I don't think, I don't know about you, Andrea, but yes, I had some lessons and I had some coaches, but my dad obviously did a lot with me. He wasn't a tennis player either, but he would feed me a lot of balls on the court and work with me. And you can find ways to cut those costs down for sure. But I know it's tough, but I think, every sport now has its specialties and but I think in tennis, the good old ball machines and, there are ways, the wall, I love going to these public parks where they have the wall. I love to go on there. The girls are looking at me like, what are you doing? But I love to hit on the wall still. But I think there, if you have the will, you'll find a way.
Oh, beautiful. I love that you said that for especially the players that might be starting and things aren't as in terms of the financial situation as for others, so there is always a way to get there and maybe do that
there
later.
Are local programs that do have clinics and have lessons, so I think you just have to look for those, and they do a great job.
Oh, thank you. I grew up in a very competitive tennis environment in Slovakia in Eastern Europe. I heard that you're quite the prankster.
I just pulled a prank today, as a matter of fact.
Does your adding things of a light nature at times help the players relax and bond better?
I think so. I mean, listen, you've got to have fun, right? That's why we got into the sport of tennis. And so, I really try to look for ways to make it fun for everybody around. And hopefully these Billie Jean King Cup weeks are weeks that the players will remember, and that they'll be very special weeks. Mm-hmm. They're playing tennis and they work so hard all year round. And I'm very lucky with the staff around me, and I've had some great coaches working with me, and we really try to go out of our way to make it fun and a memorable week. And I think when you're having fun, you're going to be more relaxed, and it bonds the team.
Yes, that's so great. I love that. When I played for college, I sort of had that nature myself, and I remember we put honey on a door handle and just things like that, so they wouldn't be able to touch the grip. So I totally get it. And it actually really helped, like before such an intense match, or helps us to relax and get in a better mood and laugh about it. And we were in better spirits. So I love that. When you were a player, did you have any meditation or relaxation or traditions you follow daily?
Sometimes I get a little superstitious. I don't know if that's what you're asking, but
I didn't want to call it that way, but yes.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I would eat at the same restaurant.
Okay.
Maybe I would wash the clothes out and wear the same thing. Maybe certain things like that. But I think on court, you have your routines. I think every player finds what works for them.
Mm-hmm.
Your routines. Sometimes, for me, I'd be in the locker room and maybe talk a little too much. Andrea, I don't know. Sometimes that would relax me, just talking to players before I was going to walk on court, or listen to music. A lot of times I would just listen to some songs, depending on the match and the situation, what I needed. Sometimes it was just me and my coach. So, I think everybody finds what works for them and what they need so that they're prepared when they step out on court, ready to go. How about you, Andrea? Did you have any superstition?
I didn't. I was fortunate because my dad coached me. I mean, he learned tennis from TV. And so when you grow up in your household with it and it's a family thing, I play with my sister and my mom, and it was family fun. So that's a completely different atmosphere. He got obviously much more serious when he saw how we were improving.
Right.
I never got nervous. I never got tired. I never got hot. And so for whatever reason,
wow,
I just, maybe, I never really had anything that I had to do. Yeah. I think because I was so young. When you're older, maybe rituals come in a little bit more. And, I think that was a little different for me.
I guess I still am. Whatever helps, like, as long as it's not harmful to anyone else, it's.
Yeah. No, I think everybody's got their, everybody kind of has to figure out what works for them a little bit. Sometimes it's just listening to some relaxing music and, like I said.
Yeah, I did have, but this was because of TV timeouts. I used to not sit on changeovers when I went to the pros, and they told me I had to sit down. And I was like, oh, okay. And so then I'd be sitting there waiting for an opponent to come out. I'd go out early. I'd play with my strings a lot because I didn't know what to do. Like I was standing there waiting in return. I don't know if that was a habit, but it was something I ended up doing a lot. So didn't use that talent to go.
You didn't sit down on the changeover?
Changeover. It was just, I wasn't tired, I wasn't like, I think because I trained so much when I was younger and I had such a high discipline that when I got practice was 100 times harder than a match.
Trust me, that I agree with.
Yeah. So when you went out,
always harder than
Yeah. So I went out. I was like, gosh, why am I going to sit down? Like I don't need to sit down. And when you're young, I had a lot of energy. I still kind of do now, but I just would walk to the other side of the changeover because I was used to that from juniors. And our juniors, you didn't sit down, and so they told me I had to sit down for TV timeouts. And I was like, oh, can I just stand over there? And they're like, But anyway, those are great questions, Adriana. Do you have anything else, or do you want to?
No, those were wonderful answers. Thank you so much, Kathy. I mean,
of course. Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Hi, Kathy. I'm Karen.
Hi, Karen.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Nice.
We heard a lot from Andrea, that's for sure. Well, actually, I know Andrea because when I was a kid, I was 11, I think, I had got cancer, I had leukemia. So, like growing up with leukemia, I was 11. So, you can get judged a lot. I lost my hair, my eyebrows. I had to miss school. I was homeschooled. Yeah. So I kind of missed a lot of my, middle school, I think? Middle school years. Yeah. So, and then, I didn't have many friends because, I was homeschooled. So who I was going to talk to? My brother. So, it's very uncomfortable.
You were in your house, like your brother. What was I going to do? I just had my brother.
Yeah, my brother was my only friend.
Yeah.
So we would go out to eat, and I actually hated it because people would just stare at me. Like, be polite, don't stare at people. And so it was very uncomfortable, growing up like that. But Andrea told me that your mom taught you to never judge people. It is tough for any kid, cancer or not, Could you share any personal story of how important that message was for you throughout your life?
I just remember, driving to school every morning with my mom and having these little life lesson talks. And, I went on and did that with my son, actually. I said, wow, we were talking about it not that long ago about, just the little talks. And first of all, sorry that you had to go through that. I think those are tough years. The middle school age years anyway are very tough. And then on top of that, to battle cancer, congratulations on battling cancer.
Thank you.
Again, Andrea, what you do is just incredible. My mom was a school teacher and second grade school teacher, and loved children, but loved people, very outgoing. And so I learned a lot from her. And actually, my mom passed away with cancer, and she always quite young. Actually, my son was only in second grade, and so it was very difficult because we were very close with my family. But she would always say, "Don't worry about me. I've lived a quite a long life. Think about the kids with cancer." And so she always wanted to do and wanted us to think about the children, and so she loved children. And, it was just always important for her and for my father, that treat others the way you want to be treated. And so that was just kind of what we were taught, and, and to see the good in people, and you never know what is going on in somebody's life. And so, are we perfect? No, nobody is. And, but, you do the best you can. And, I try to remember in those moments, like, listen, who am I to judge? Who am I? We're all humans trying to do the best we can. Right. So I'm sorry that you went through that. But look at you now.
Yeah. Right.
I feel like sometimes we go through battles and we come out, right? We all have to go through battles. We all, we just do. It's life. And I think, you can come out stronger, which you have. And that says a lot about you.
Right. Thank you. I'm really sorry about your mom, though.
Thank you.
Yes. So you actually married your high school sweetheart. Did he ever get intimidated by your success?
He's been so, I'm very fortunate. He has been there through the good and the bad and the ugly. And, so it's really been nice. He was athletic too, growing up. He played football. And so we had sports in common right from the start. And, he would go, Andrea, you must have met Brad a few times.
Great guy.
So, he has traveled with me. And then when I had my son, they traveled with me. My parents traveled with me. So, those are some really incredible memories that we have together. And I think some of the best memories is when I had my son and traveling all together. So, he understands everything and has helped me so much. And like I said, it's not a straight shot forward. You always have obstacles and tough times, and, to be able to share that with someone and to be there by your side, it's been incredible.
Wow. I mean, that is amazing, especially because high school sweetheart, that goes a long way back, right?
Well, we're coming up on our 30th wedding anniversary.
It's
so you
amazing.
add the high school, what is that, an extra 10 or 11 years onto that. We've known each other more than half our lives now.
That's
so it's
amazing.
pretty incredible.
I think that is really cool.
Yeah. Lucky.
So I don't really know about much of the life you, Andrea, and Adriana live as a tennis players. When you were kids, they don't really talk about it. And Andrea always made sure during every camp session that all the kids learned tennis and played tennis for prizes. How was it for you growing up with so much tennis in your childhood? Did you ever feel like you missed out on anything? I hope Adriana and Andrea can actually answer that too.
Yeah, she can. You know what? My parents were great about that. I have to say, I went to regular school. I had sleepovers. I went to some football games. Did I miss things and sacrifice? I think to be great and to be at the best, there are sacrifices to be made, but I was doing what I love to do. And I thought, wow, how many people have the opportunity to do what I do? And so I felt very fortunate that I had the opportunity to do things. I didn't really I don't remember thinking, oh, I'm missing this or missing that. My childhood friends are still my childhood friends today. So I still keep in touch with them. And and then the friendships on tour, I still have some great friendships on tour that I stay in touch with. So yes, we miss out on things, but I didn't really, again, I felt very fortunate that I found a passion early and that I was able to be out there doing things at such a young age and have that opportunity to do that. So I felt very blessed and very, very grateful for those opportunities.
Mm.
What about you, Andrea?
Well, okay, I'm going to let Adriana go first, and then you, Karen.
That's
and then
not
I'll go.
fair. But
Okay. No, Adriana, you go. Go ahead.
It was, it's hard to go through my experience. Maybe when the childhood is the right comparison, because Andrea and Kathy, they were just on top of the world. So that's a whole another level of living. For me, yes. At the time, I think I really enjoyed the routine and the training and how rewarding it felt when each time I felt so accomplished. But there were times that I did feel I had so many other interests that gosh, I wish I could go, I don't know, ride horses or hang out with more animals or paint or do little things that kids do. It was there for me. And but my life worked out in a way that tennis is I'm so beyond grateful for the sport and that what it has given me. It's an incredible honor and opportunity to think about it today and how I viewed it then. So a little bit different, I think, than
not really. It sounds that's beautiful. I mean, tennis does give you opportunities, and
very,
no matter at what level someone. It's a skill set and you're meeting people and it's fun. And, there are different avenues to go down too. It's not, maybe some of the players that I've even worked with or that our player development has worked with, they don't always make it to the top, but they go on and get college scholarships. They get their scholarships and then they end up in the tennis industry. There's many different avenues in the tennis industry, and it's, it's still a passion. And so it's really, I don't know.
It's such a wonderful sport. It really is special.
Yeah.
It definitely is. It's lifelong, and no matter what level, it's like, it's such an incredible thing. I mean, I remember hitting my first balls in the driveway because my dad's like, oh, let's not waste, going to a tennis court. And, just to have that joy with my parents, teaching and then learning the part where, I just asked my dad, I was like, okay, so all you do is when we finally got to a tennis court, I said, you just hit it over the net in between the lines. He goes, yeah. And I go, okay, well, that seems easy enough. And to think that little bit of logic, and all of a sudden you get to travel the world and be part of teams. I've been part of the Fed Cup team and the Whiteman Cup team. And that's right. And that team
aspect, the Olympics too, didn't you?
Yeah, the Olympic. You mentioned the wall, Kathy. Yes. Like we all players, we grew up with a wall.
Well, and the walls are still around. I mean, you talked about, you can play tennis. I mean, we just played with all different kinds of players. I would play with the doctors, off when they would finish with work. My parents would drop me off to play every kind of player, men, women, juniors, and we would just play. And I think that, some of that's a little bit lost. I think sometimes you don't have to, pay a lot of money for lessons. Yes, you got to learn the basics and things, but there's ways to do that now with everything on the internet and so many great programs out there. So I just think, that is another aspect about our sport, that you can find someone to play with all the time.
Yeah, it absolutely. When I first played my first junior tournament with a USTA tournament, you get the little USTA card, and I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like so privileged, and it was really cool. But and that's how Adriana and I met, because I was hitting against a wall and I was getting ready to play a Wimbledon sledge, and she goes, would you like to practice? And then we ended up going because we were running all these kids programs for children with cancer and other children. And then we were practicing, and Martina needed practice in her Wimbledon Legends. So Adriana and I were able to practice against Martina and her partner. And it's like at Wimbledon on the grass courts. I mean, one of the most famous tournaments and amazing tournaments with one of the greatest players who ever picked up a tennis racket. And you know, those stories, when you think about when you're just a little kid, it may not be that you always hold the trophy at the end, but there's a trophy in tennis that is yours. And it's in something. It could just be meeting people, like you said. It's such an extraordinary sport. And that's why in all our programs, we all want the kids to learn it. Well, you know, you may not go to Wimbledon. You're certainly not going to. You have cancer. You're just, you're basically fighting for your life, not for a forehand or a backhand. But we want them to see that joy.
I'm so thankful, you know, for the bond that it gave me with my mom and dad, because, you know, it's a journey. It's a complete journey, and you never know which path your journey is going to take. But, you know, you go through the highs and the lows, and that bond of those people that are close to you, it's like no other. You know, it really isn't, because you're sharing and you're putting yourself out on the line each and every day in tennis, no matter what level you're playing, because it's such an individual sport. And it's so physical and mental, and it challenges you in every way. So, you know, those relationships are really important.
Yeah, they're definitely to be valued. And I think, and I don't know if it was maybe because I mean, I was 2 in the world at 16, and we're in different locker rooms. I remember always trying to go to my sister's locker room when she was in qualies. And I was like, gosh, those players down there, they're having so much more fun than we are in the seated players' locker room. And I'd always try to hang out with them. And there's just that history. You have something you've done together. And it's like how Adriana and I will always understand each other from that growing up and taking care of these kids. And you, it's like knowing what you're doing to give back to tennis. It's like, that's such a huge, enormous way, and it's special. And that's kind of almost how I feel, where if God's gifted me the ability to be able to play tennis and travel the world, then I want to show that joy to the, you know, the kids that come across.
I tell you what you do is just so inspiring to me. You know, what you're doing is just, you know, you're helping not only the kids, but the families, and, you know, through some of the most devastating times of their life. And, you know, having gone through that cancer with my mom and my dad, you know, it's just, you know, it's just unbelievable. I just can't even imagine what those parents go through. We just had a young player that did pass away too young, and he was a very good player. And just to see what they've been going through. And so I just have so much admiration and respect for what you and your foundation does. It's absolutely incredible. And I'd love to be able to help in some way, some small way, and contribute, whether, you know, it's a trip here to the USTA or whatever, because we have such an incredible staff. Talking about a bond, I mean, my team at the player development, we're a real family, and the coaches are incredible. The staff is incredible, the performance team. And if there's anything that we can do here, I know we would.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. And so I know, Karen, I wanted you just to share a little about, you know, like when we were talking about what we missed in our childhood, and you shared a bit about that, but why don't you just say something about, you've also, it's not the same thing that Kathy's done, but you've also kind of been a coach to young kids with cancer, and how much that's meant to you. Karen's an ambassador. So when we run programs, and everyone has a different quality and gift in life. Like Kathy, you have, because of your passion for the sport and your love of the sport and respect, it's like, okay, players, you might be number one in the world, but you know what? There's also life. Like number one in life is a totally different thing than being a Grand Slam champion. And you help players develop that as well. And that's,
well, you're too kind. I tell you, we got some incredible young women out there. They are, I learned from them, Andrea. I mean, they really are incredible. I give them so much credit. They really are great about giving back to the young ones. And, you know, being a coach, I always say, I think I get more out of it than they get from me. What you do is, you know, obviously you're touching families and children during the most difficult times, but there's nothing like giving to somebody and it's almost like a calling, right? I mean, I felt like coaching for me was, I never thought I was going to be a coach. I'll be honest with you. I thought, oh, I'm going to play. I'm going to, I'll do some corporate outings, which I did, and, a few things like that. And then all of a sudden I had the opportunity and I just loved it. And I was like, wow, this is like a calling. I'm like, I'm all in, I felt it's just so rewarding. And I can't even describe it, but if you can just help somebody just with a little something, I just feel great about that. And that's why I always say, I think I get more out of it than they do from me, because it's just like, you feel good about what you're doing when you can give to somebody and you can help.
Yeah. Callings are, there's something about that connection. And so Karen, would you just share a little about how it's important for you to help and give back to the little ones with cancer, that, because that field so well. How has that felt for you to do?
It's true. Like Kathy said, it's so rewarding. It's so gratifying too. Just being able to, knowing that I was in their place at one point and now I'm actually there to help them is just, it has no words. It's just feels amazing.
And what they're going through, right, Karen? I mean, you've been through every step of the way, how it feels during, middle school years are tough enough, right? And so I'm sure that you're that person that they can lean on outside of their parents that has that understanding. And I'm sure do you call upon your experiences to be able to help them?
Sometimes I do. I kind of share a little bit about me to them just so they can be comfortable around me as well. Mm-hmm. Like I don't want them to think like, oh, well, she doesn't know what we're going through, because I've been there. So I do know. And I sometimes put myself in their shoes again. Yeah. And it's rewarding, but at the same time, it's sad because it makes me remember my time when I had cancer. So it goes both ways.
Yeah, sure. But I'm sure you're a great resource to the parents as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I do a bond. It grows when I'm with them too. So I end up actually sometimes even, contacting parents, or the parents contacted me. So it's nice, that they can come to me with any questions or just, they want to talk.
Very similar to what we do at the USTA as coaches. We really try to look at, we always put the person first, right? That's the most important thing. You have to put the person first. You have to understand the person to get the most out of them and to be able to help them. And, that means understanding and getting to know their families. And that's what's so rewarding. Again, it's about the relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Beautiful.
That's beautiful. It really is. And that's why we wanted to have you on. I mean, you've had an enormous success as a professional tennis player, but yet you've had this just love of the game and love of helping others find that love of the game and helping them become the best person they can be. When we grew up, so much focus was on the tennis results, not our, hey, do you want to go help kids? I would love to go help kids. And that was kind of shut down. And I was like, well, no, I want to go help. And so I would sneak out and go help kids. And that's, it's just such a great thing to see and to know that you've done this, for a long time, and you continue to have that joy within it. And you're like an ambassador for the sport in more ways, not just because you have the title, but because you have, like you said, the calling and the heart. Well,
so are you, Andrea. You're an ambassador of our sport as well, and doing such great things. And I know you've been doing this for 38 years now?
Yeah, 38.
38 years. And how many thousands of children have you helped? So
it's been a few, and it's interesting because when you play Fed Cup, so Kathy will be on TV, the whole team will be just either celebrating or dealing with a loss or a win or whatever, and I'll be cheering and screaming for the team on TV, and so I'll just text her and go, way to go, or you doing, and just a short bit later, she'll go, hey, Andrew, how you doing? Thanks for the heads up. Thanks for the cheering. It's
absolutely. Why wouldn't I reach out to you, Kathy? It's nice. I appreciate when someone takes the time to do that. Trust me, I appreciate the support. Again, I don't take that for granted. So when someone reaches out to me, it means a lot.
Well, you're an example. You're definitely an inspiration, an example. And love you for it. And so we're just so excited to have you on and appreciate it. And we'll be cheering. I know it's, it's a long year in tennis and you're producing so much in results, but also, people. And that's something that is, forever, that lasts forever. And my, deepest sympathy for you and your family with the loss of your mom. I'm sorry.
Well, that was many years ago. So thank you though. I appreciate that. I mean, you knew my mom, but, you know what, it takes a village. It really does. And it's just, it's great to, do what we do, but we can't do that without help of everybody. Right. And the private, for me, it's the private coaches. For me, it's the team that I work with day in and day out. And, we just, we all share that same goal and that same passion and, just keep trying to raise the bar higher and higher for American tennis. And I'm sure that's the same for you and for what you all do.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting because my dad passed away several decades ago. So my dad and your mom are probably talking about us and going, look at them. We're so proud, So that's kind of a cool thing. So appreciate it. And just, congrats on everything you've already done and good luck. And like I said, we'll be cheering you on. So thanks for coming and joining us.
See you next week.
Yeah. See you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Thank you. Nice meeting you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Bye. Bye.